What's going on, guys? Julien here, back with another video. Today, I'm here with Lucas Sacco. You can find him in the description down below. Please go subscribe to him. Today, we're doing a deck doctor type of video where we're going to be going over 3 deck lists and, just improving them, giving our feedback on what we think will make the deck more optimal. Before we jump into the video, I just want to remind you guys that on Friday, September 12th, the masterclass is coming out for Vanquish Soul K9. So once it's out, they'll be linked in all my videos and you guys will be able to find that there.
Awesome. Sounds good. Let's hop into it. The first deck that we have here on the screen here is a Dracotail deck that was submitted, but it's not like a normal Dracotail deck. It plays the Magistus engine. Have you looked over this at all, Julien?
Yeah, I kind of saw like what the combo is supposed to look like actually. I have a replay if you want to take a look at it. It's really interesting. So pretty much you need to, for this combo to work, first of all, it's a 2.5 card combo. You need to open specifically Cartesia plus 5 mana. And I'm not talking like Ketu to get 5 mana. You need to open 5 mana itself. So the way the combo goes, you normal summon Cartesia, you fuse into Arthelion with the 5 mana and like your other monster. Then you Arthelion, add them back, as well as 5 mana, set Rahu. From here, this is where it gets a little spicy. From here, you turn the Cartesia into the Link 1. This Link 1 is going to come up later because when it's an equip spell, we can use it to search Magistus monster. So from here, you use 5 mana, you fuse them into this guy. This guy is a monster negate. So that's like pretty much what he does. But on top of that, he equips Magistus card or any monster in your graveyard to it, which then allows us to search with the Link 1, which is actually pretty interesting. So from here, we went into like having a monster negate plus having a search. But first, we were going to want a Rahu. So we're going to Rahu, use our monster in hand that we added back, plus Urgula, summon our Golamo, just another disruption, set Ketu, and then we're going to be able to use Urgula to actually put the 5 mana back in our hand, just a good card to have in hand. And then we're going to Ketu add, in this case, we want to add Lucius because we actually want a spellcaster, and we want a monster that we haven't used the effect to set yet because it's going to be how we get our trap. Then we're going to use the Link 1 to search for our Poplar, our Magistus monster. This guy works just like a Poplar. When it's searched, you get to special summon it, and when it's special summon, you get to fuse into a Magistus monster.
Or an invoked one, which will probably come up later. But we use the Crowley here. We special summon itself. We fusion with the Lucas. That's going to summon our other Magistus Bossus monster. This guy's kind of like a funny snatch steal. It's like a quick effect to equip himself onto something, and then it takes control of it if it's your opponent's monster. While doing that, it's going to get the Luke's effect to then set a trap card, and then in the end phase, we're going to get the Cartesia effect to add back here. During the opponent's turn, you have like a couple cool interactions. It's mostly just like a normal Dracotail board, except you have an extra monster negate on it, as well as you have this like kind of like snatch steal like effect, and you're missing a trap card. But if you do happen to open like any dark monster, like say you open Malulu in this hand, then you can do some really cool things here. You can use 5 mana to go ahead and fusion summon with your Gulamo at any point in the turn. Obviously, you'd prefer to get the additional pop off of this first if possible, or do it while even doing this interaction. But you want to go to Arthelion, and the Arthelion can actually add back your Crowley. The cool thing about Crowley is if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, so even if you add it back from the graveyard, kind of like Big Jaws, if it's added back from the graveyard too, it also triggers to special summon itself. So then we can use this effect to special summon, use the effect of it now because it's summoned again to fusion summon, and because we're using any dark monster, we can use this card and treat it like it's Alistair and summon Caliga, which is just a super oppressive floodgate during the opponent's turn. It's like a kind of a bad version of Winda, but it's searchable and accessible through engine. So, I mean, you'll get to it more often.
Yeah. So that's like the combo. I have a few things to say about just like this whole combo in general, but first to just take a look at the overall list. So we can see that for this list, the Cartesia / Magistus package kind of like replaces what you would expect to be like a King of the Swamp package in other builds of this deck. I do think that the King of the Swamp version is more optimal just because we just saw, right? This was a 2.5 card combo, which you're only going to open about 10% of the time, right? Because you have to open specifically 5 mana and specifically Cartesia. And in order to be able to do this, while you do this, you don't even get to like all your traps. Your 2-card combos in Dracotail, they want to get you to both your traps because that's how you set up, a draw 2, you have a bounce, a spell negate, like that's very strong. And now you're giving up part of the ceiling of your deck when you open the like niche cards in your deck, which is not what you want to do. When you open the niche cards in your deck, you want to raise your ceiling a lot more. Whereas here, okay, fine, you have a monster negate, but you also have like a snatch steal that doesn't really do anything, right? You're kind of sacrificing your Arthelion bounce for that. Like, I would want my snatch steal. Like you can't even activate the monster's effect that you steal, by the way, right? That's like part of it. So I don't think this is worth playing. I think I would much rather play the King of the Swamp because it's also better at going second, which I know this deck is really strong at going second, but there are like it's not good into Vanquish K9. This deck into Vanquish K9 is like super hard. So I think I would want it to be better at going second. So King of the Swamp into Guardian Chimera and that kind of stuff is really good for that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that Cartesia is like an optional engine to play. I think it's a little bit worse than King of the Swamp just because it is an additional normal summon. Your deck already has a lot of those. And so I think if we took out the 3 Cartesias and probably took out this Magistus engine as well, just to try to streamline the deck to playing into its strong suits more with its go second ability, playing King of the Swamp. Also lets you like manage your extra deck a little bit better because you can play things like Guardian Chimera, which is obviously a very oppressive card when you're going second. That card into Yummy, by the way, is insane. The fact that you can like normal summon a Malulu and then activate Polymerization to like kind of like bait different lines of play and resources into the board, and then you can make a Guardian Chimera that's untargetable because the Polymerization goes to grave. It's really tough for them to deal with any monster that's untargetable. So something like that into like one of the most popular decks of the format. I feel like you should just be playing the engine that lets you do that. The only other like different thing here from like a pretty standard list at this point would be the amount of Urgulas and Pans in the deck. How do you feel about these amounts, Julian?
I think you can easily cut those down to 1 and 1. I feel like, especially with the Guardian Chimera, you now open a way to fuse way more often. That isn't like an overlapping normal summon, right? Cartesia has one benefit to it, and it's the fact that it gets added back in the end phase. I think that if we're just playing, like, if we're being careful with our hand sizes and we're not discarding cards too much and just playing correctly, that added benefit will not outweigh the fact that King of the Swamp is just not a normal summon. Like you could just activate that card, fuse, it's broken.
So what do you think we replace these with? Do you think we just play like more hand traps or?
I think it would just depend on how the rest of the list goes because there's some other things in this list that I'm not liking right now. I'm not liking the 3 ogres. I think that that card is way too situational. If your opponent starts with normal raisin, ogre is like never really gonna be putting in work because a lot of the time, if you play Vanquish K9 correctly, you're not even searching the field spell. You actually just search the trap directly so that you don't have to end on 2 Vanquish monsters yourself. So I think that cutting down on ogres. Putting in more cards like Perulia because Perulia might not be that great into Yummy, but if you activate a Perulia on Yummy, they might not end on a Herald, which is the only card you care about.
Yeah.
And into your worst matchup, which is Vanquish K9, Perulia is very strong.
Sure. So just like easy it down. Let's leave 2 Ghost Diggers
Yeah.
in here for now, just to like try to get like a sample list going. So you're basically just maxing out as many hand traps that you think are good into the format, and then we cut down the Dracotail engine and like the additional like Magistus engines to become a little bit more streamlined. So that's like it for the main deck here. The only things that would like really change with the extra deck is like you wouldn't be needing a lot of these cards here because you wouldn't be ever summoning them. You'd obviously be adding in a Guardian Chimera to this thing. One other thing that we see here is that there's no SP in this extra deck. I've noticed a big trend across a lot of like TCG players right now is they're just removing SP from their deck for some crazy reason. That card should be banned. If a card should be banned, if it should not be allowed to be played, then you should probably play it while you can.
Yeah, you should play it.
You
Yeah,
should
yeah,
probably
yeah.
play it. Yeah, so probably put SP into this deck is another thing I'd probably recommend, as well as the Guardian Chimera. One other cool thing that
Yeah.
I've seen a lot more people play is access code with this deck. Into like a turn 3/4 scenario with this deck, being able to like turn 2 monsters into a cross sheep, which triggers like a fusion monster that you already had pre-existing in your graveyard because 2 monsters were sent to the graveyard at the same time, lets you trigger the cross sheep, or sorry, lets you trigger the fusion monster to special back, which then triggers the cross sheep, so you can revive something back, whether it's like a Lucas, a Malulu, just any monster. It lets you revive something back to get you more resources. Then you can utilize that SP that we were just talking about, going into an SP with your fusion monster right underneath the cross sheep. So then you can get an additional banish off of there, but then turning the cross sheep and the SP into an access code just for like more clearing of the field is just really, really oppressive. It basically just gives you an infinite toolbox for clearing any sort of follow-up they have. And like the amount of disruptions that Dracotail sets up just on its own as the deck progresses for turn 5 in a situation like that, or turn 4, whatever turn you like end up being on, depending on who started, it is just too much for whatever things they can top deck or like barely hold on to resource wise.
Yeah, one quick thing I would do here is easy. I would cut the link one, the Magistus link one, and then all these fusions. Put SP, Celine, access code, and Dragoons.
Yeah, we need Dragoons, and
Yeah,
then the
Dragoons is a
Guardian
niche
Chimera.
card on Guardian Chimera.
Mhm.
Yep. Can't spell.
That's this looks like a very standard Dracotail list. There's a reason it's standard, right? It's probably because it works.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is very good. I think that you're playing 17 non-engine plus the 3/5 mana, so you have 20 ways to interrupt your opponent on your opponent's turn, which is really good. They all pair pretty well with each other. Like even Ogre Nib does do pretty good because you can just Ogre Ripper, and then they probably negate it, and then you nib them. That's pretty good, right? Valor Nib also good. All that stuff. Your Molch armies just allow you to play better. Like just half boards. This deck cooks half boards, right? So I think that you always want to play 6 Molch armies in this deck. But yeah, this all looks pretty good to me. One thing I would say about the side deck, one big thing I see is Bell. I would never play Bell in this deck just because Pankratops achieves kind of the same goal in a lot of scenarios, and I'd rather play Pankratops. So in the mirror, right, you would Bell a trap, you could just Pank, target that trap. It's the same thing, same interaction. Against Yummy, right, Bell would cut him off of 2 bodies, you can Pank, you can check the Herald. As soon as Herald is gone, you can fuse, GG. You know what I mean? So like, I think that Pankratops is a lot better than Bell in these scenarios.
Definitely. I don't think we'll be able to look at the side decks for each one and craft a side deck pattern for each deck, but I think just giving a sample
Yeah.
main deck and extra deck is going to be the best thing that we're going to be able to do for each deck. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. The next deck we have here is K9 Christian. This is a deck that I think I've played a lot of this format. It's probably the deck I had the most experience with, honestly. Couple things I want to get off right off the bat. You don't need Foolish Burial in this deck. It is a super fake consistency card. You already have access to your Christian engine a lot of the time, and having that plus access to any sort of engine just makes it like the most redundant card that you can possibly have in your deck. As well as like, even if you do have only Foolish Burial, a lot of the time I feel like you just rather have it be a non-engine card. Because you're doing the weakest line in your deck that's going to lock you into machines super early, loses to any hand trap in the game. It's just never really resolving how you're actually wanting it to do. So taking that out of the deck I think is a super, super beneficial thing for you. Another thing that you can look at adjusting is this Christian cluster that's in our main deck. I really agree with Felix, and I'm going to say his last name wrong because it's super German. Pfeiffer? That, like, yeah, he's a European guy. He made a very good point that this card is really needed post-side when people have things like Dark Rule in their deck a little bit more consistently. And I know we did see things like Dark Rule getting played a little bit more in the main decks of people's deck at Worlds, but Worlds is a totally different format. Paradise Smasher not being legal for Worlds made it to where people could play board breakers a little bit more successfully. It's just not the case right now in the TCG because people are just Paradise Smashing you. You need hand traps to stop them right now, and you need your deck to be as streamlined as possible. So while taking this card out, we're going to not only be playing into our opponent's non-engine and playing around it a little bit better, because we're going to have a board that played through hand traps very well to get to a very strong in board where they won't have board breakers to really break that most times. But also, with taking this out, we're going to have more hand traps in our deck, which is going to prevent our opponent from being able to Paradise Smash us as well.
Yeah, one thing I would say is if you wanted to play like the ceiling card, right? In this case, cluster, I would rather play the K9 quick play spell just because your K9 engine is like kind of like what you always start with, anyways. You always make turn 2 Rain 5s into Ripper before you turn them into Infinitrack. And the quick play spell is just like absolutely insane. Like that card is way more of a checkmate than cluster, right? I mean, it has the same effect except it doesn't target. And oh, I just get to look at the hand. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's definitely the only difference is like it does take an extra deck spot. But looking down at this extra deck, I think there's a couple things we can look at it optimizing. Like maybe putting SP in this deck list too. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, that's
Maybe.
crazy. Where's SP? What the hell?
Yeah. But I do think this cluster does need to get moved down, at least into the side deck. It's definitely a card that should be in your deck somewhere. One thing I think I've seen a lot of people really do with this deck is try this Foolish Burial Goods thing with Clockwork Knight. Clockwork Knight is a card that lets it's a searchable card. It's like can be part of your end board. The thing is that this card really doesn't do that much except into exactly Yummy. If you activate this card going first against Yummy, like it is an FTK. But it's only good against Yummy. And like the situations where you're able to search this, you are probably going to win the game anyways because your deck just has such a powerful end board even without this card. I think you can really get away with not doing anything that has to do with Clockwork Knight, and you can move this cluster down to the side deck here. So doing that opens up 2 spots in our main deck. I think that hand traps are very, very good this format. I do think that we should lean more into side deck patterns when building this. Like one major thing is that there are a lot of cards that this deck wants to put in going first now. So not only do we have the 2 additional Case of Cannons that we want to bring in for when we're going first, we also have this cluster that we're going to bring in. And it looks like there's Called by the Grave in here as well. We're already citing the Apophis Trap so that we can set it off of Rabbit, get to another like kind of Omni Negate type thing. It's another card that we're bringing in. There's a Black Goat Laugh in here, which we can probably cut without the package from Foolish Burial Goods. Yeah, but I mean, even with this is still 5 cards that we want to bring in and going first. The best thing that I think we can do here is probably add some Perulias to our main deck as just like a high ceiling floodgate for when we're going second. But it also helps our side deck patterns a little bit more since we're able to easily interchange the 5 Mulch Armies going first for the 5 cards that we want in our deck. So I think that's like the first thing I would do for improvement. I don't think we need to look at the rest of the side deck really. I think the rest of the main deck is honestly pretty solid though.
I honestly would probably cut Bell. I feel like Bell is good into Yummy, but it's kind of mid into Vanquish Soul. And I think that one card that's really good in this deck is Droplets because a lot of your cards like being in the graveyard, and so actually Droplets is really strong. And this is a card I would want to play at 3. I also think that Nibiru is like kind of a weak card overall. I think that in Dracotail, like obviously I just said in Dracotail is good. It's a different story because in Dracotail you play like just having 5 mana to pair with it is way stronger than like Izuna because Izuna can be checked by like Dr. Madlove, Caesar, Holy Su, like all these cards can check Izuna, whereas Femina can't be checked. They need to have call by. They need to have call by. That's it, right? So like Femina adds to the nib pair, whereas in this deck there's not as many nib pairs. And nib against K9 Vanquish Soul like doesn't resolve. Like it never resolves. Let's be real, right? You need to like have it paired with Valor Imperm, and here we're playing 2 nibs, 3 Imperms, 2 Valors. The odds of us pairing that is like 10%, something like that, right? So it's really too low for it to like actually be good. I'd rather play hand traps that will actually chip away at my opponent's board, and then we can kind of finish them off with Droplet or a card like that.
I definitely agree. So if we were trying to change things around to kind of fit the scheme that we have the deck right now, are we adjusting the Valors as well, or do you just want to take out the nibs and add another card in?
I think we'd at least take out the nibs, and honestly, the quick play spell kind of like belongs in here. I think, like I
Yeah,
was saying.
I can definitely see that. One major thing a lot of people are doing as well is they're siding the quick play spell. Let me see if I can remember this card's name. There it is. They're siding the quick play spell, and a lot of people are like just not playing Called by the Grave at all in this deck. This deck plays through every sort of interactable hand trap just super well. Activating Jokel, revealing Solfador. I think it. I think you have to have like lottery winning numbers. You have to hit the $1 billion jackpot you're hitting right now to try to hand trap to stop that successfully. So Call by the Grave just probably isn't needed. This is another thing I think you could do is you could side deck this quick play spell and take out the Call by the Grave. Even if you do decide to main deck like one of the powerful cards, so you decide to main deck the cluster, or you decide to main deck the forced release, I do think this Call by the Grave should probably be swapped out for another go first option. Regulus is another card that I'm really liking in this deck. Not just because it adds more ceiling onto your end board, but because it also helps with your extension a lot of the time. If you already have access to K9 cards, you end up with just 2 level 5 monsters that you're just kind of fumbling around with. You don't really have an exact purpose for. And you don't just want to like throw a random Nash Knight onto your field or throw one of your rank 5 monsters that you're usually going into with like your Izuna. So what you can do is you can side in the Regulus, you can make the River Stormer like you usually do, and you can just search Regulus. Not only is Regulus adding to the ceiling of your end board, like I said, but it also gives you like a little bit of like more line of play in certain situations. Being able to use Regulus to equip your Solfafnir from the graveyard onto Regulus is a super cool interaction. Then you can actually use the effect of Solfador to pop the Solfafnir from your spell and trap zone to special summon itself, which then triggers the Solfafnir to special summon from deck. So you're now getting more extension out of it and a ceiling onto your boss monster, or onto your inboard and a new boss monster. So I think I'd probably do this in the situation where we do play the case or the K9 X Force release, whatever this card's name is. With doing that, we obviously have to find room in the extra deck to do it. The first thing that I see here, it's this whole chunk right here. I was a big believer in Nash Knight for a long period of time with this deck. I just don't think it's right anymore. Opinions change all the time, but in this deck specifically, I think there's just way too many like utility cards that you could use. So let's just like right click on all of these, get all of these out of here, and fix the extra deck. First off, SP, you're absolutely a lunatic if that card's not in your deck. Almost every deck right now should be playing this card. The other things that we should be looking at playing is we definitely have to have a werewolf in our deck if we are entering a tournament with the force released somewhere here. Just common sense, we have to have that here. Couple other things that we need to have in the deck as well. We need to have some more 5s that we can go into.
I
One
think
card,
Valon.
yeah, it's definitely Valon. Valon is like the most generic one that we can go into that takes the least amount of commitment in the extra deck. But one card I've changed my mind on a lot is Vimana. I think this card is a lot better than I originally gave it credit for. This card is like the perfect Zeus vessel. And what I mean by saying that is the additional effect of this card that says once per turn you can target one face-up monster on the field and one XYZ monster or Chronomaly monster in your graveyard. That monster on the field gains half the attack of that monster in the graveyard, then attach that monster from your graveyard onto this card as material. That's an effect that comes up a lot. So you can make Vimana, you can go into the battle phase, you can run over a monster if you want. Still in the battle phase, you can use Vimana effect to attach an Xyz from your graveyard onto Vimana, and then you can go main phase 2 and turn this into a Zeus. And because it had 2 materials prior, it has itself, which is going to be material on the Zeus, and it has the material that we attach from graveyard. Your Zeus automatically has 4 materials. So not only are you going into the battle phase, outing a monster, you have a monster negate while you're doing so. If they do somehow use your negate, then you can still use the Vimana effect to attach an Xyz and still get a Zeus swipe out of it while getting the negate through. The other thing is this is a machine. There are situations where you do get machine locked by your Christian stuff. It doesn't happen super often, but it is something to be aware of, that if you do get stopped, then you can make Vimana. You can also like gauge your opponent's level of having nib. So sometimes your opponent will try to bait you saying thinking at a certain point in time, and try to bluff you into make you think that they have nib, basically. And they'll wait for your Cyber Dragon Nova in order to nib you. What you can do is you can just kind of skip the Nova if you really truly think they do have nib, and you can just go straight to Vimana with your Christian monsters, which kind of tricks them. May give you like an opportunity to outplay them and win. But that's probably the adjustments that I would do to this deck. I know I talked a little bit fast and over this entire thing here, Julian. Was there anything that you wanted to change or you thought was different?
The only thing that I don't like is I don't like just like randomly playing 2 Veilers. I'm not sure what non-engine slot I'd want that to be, but I feel like just kind of randomly throwing 2 Veilers in there. Like again, not the best non-engine in this format, especially with like the way that we're approaching this. If there's any sort of like board breaker that we could play, I would think that would also be pretty good. Maybe like a Book of Eclipse. The only thing with Book of Eclipse is that it's pretty weak into Malice, right? But otherwise, it's actually a really strong card.
I think that if we're trying to approach this as like a board breaker approach, because we do have the droplet in our deck, we have Imperm, which is kind of a mix of it. I think the Ghost Ogre kind of leans best into that third spot. That's like a card that's a hand trap, but it's also like a board breaker. It'd be Ghost Ogre because it does help chip away at the board. Like you can obviously Ghost Ogre a Ripper to like take the negate off the field so that you can pair like an Izuna a little bit better into it. But also like Ogre is pretty good just generically into a lot of the different boards that are going around right now. So I think it could be an option. You could also just look at playing something like Thrust or Talents in the deck. By the way, I think this is like a pretty decent summary besides these last 2 non-gen. This is totally up to you on what you want to do here. Let's look at the third deck here. Julian, you want to start us off?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Before we get started on this one, I just want to say we're going to try to look at this approach and fix this list as it is. Like we talked about this one quickly, and I don't like it'd be kind of like we did with the Dracotail one, but the Dracotail one at least it was like a small sub engine. This is like a completely secondary engine in the deck, so we're not gonna just be like, oh, remove the engraver, put a BD in school, put in more hand traps, like done. Like I feel like that would be like the obvious answer, and whoever submitted this list could just go to White Joe Pro Deck and find that list. What we're gonna do instead is we're actually going to try to make this work in a more optimal way. So the first way to do this is this Tract and this Lurie can be condensed into one card because it can just become Sonked. And you're gonna be like, oh, but Julien, Lurie's a level 1. Well, so is a Sonk token. This guy can also be turned into like, Requiem, or can just be a level 1 for a Synchro Summon, if that like somehow comes up. So I think that's the first thing we should do, is just get rid of those cards, put in the Sonked, and now, bang, Engraver turns into Song. It's not like we even need the extra light fiends, like maybe for Desiree, but like, are we really trying to end with Desiree on the end board? I'd honestly rather have Caesar. Where's Caesar next deck? What the hell? Like, where's Caesar?
Yeah, I agree. The other thing with playing Sanct is like if you are going for a Caesar approach with the deck instead of the Desiree thing, because I do like Desiree. I think that having an Omni Negate for like your deck that's kind of prone to board breakers is a good thing. But I think if you are playing this deck correctly, instead you should be not just going for Desiree, you should be going for Caesar and then just going for your other engines Omni Negate in the form of Herald. So you get to like Caesar and Herald. It's kind of the best of both worlds. If that's the case and that's what you're doing, you can cut Engraver down to 1 and just play a 3-card Fiendsmith engine, which is super cool because this is like multi-purpose. Because if you're playing the Fiendsmith cards in your deck, it gives you a built-in out to contact seed. If you normal summon a Lollipop and you go, oh no, I have a Lollipop, I've got a bad starter, and they contact you, you go, thanks, bozo, and then you link 1, or you link 2, then you link 1, then you summon Lacrima, then you send Engraver, then you do like a little dance, and then you make a Caesar, right? Like you just got full combo off of them giving you a guy. And so I think that that's like major pro of playing the Fiendsmith cards. I think this extra deck does need to be optimized to include the Caesar though, as opposed to this Desiree.
I like you said, I do think the more I thought about it while you were speaking, the desert is pretty cool. Like it helps you play around Dark Ruler, just because naturally, if you have like a surprise set with your Deseret, if they activate Dark Ruler, you just chain surprise, chain Deseret, negate the Dark Ruler. So that is a pretty cool thing. Added layers to your board. The thing is that like the Fiendsmith cards take a lot of extra deck space. Like you'll notice in the extra deck we have Herald, but we have no bridge. So we have to like hard make this Herald every time. Like I don't know, it doesn't seem optimal to me.
Yeah, I definitely think that we can change that around to fit in. The other thing is that we can definitely condense the extra deck down to kind of play through these things a little bit better, to like make it to where that's the case. The other thing is like I don't think Dark Ruler is like super good into this deck to begin with. Like if they Dark Ruler your board, you're going to have the surprise to summon back, and a lot of the time you're going to be playing a
Mhm.
Croaky. I don't think this Croaky should be in the side deck. This card is still like one of the best cards in the Yummy engine, especially into Dracotail, into Vanquish Soul, like cards that are summoning on turn one. You want to have built-in ways to just interact and remove them immediately. And so I think that if we put the Croaky in our main deck, then just having the surprise to summon back to access your Yummy engine still after you do get stopped is more than enough of a like a recursive line through Dark Ruler no more. And so I think if we
So
do this here, mhm,
one thing I was thinking of, um, is like what we could do also is cut the Lacrima and play two engravers, one sonked. This way, it doesn't clog up our normal summons. It's just always like a way to sonks pretty much. And this way, it allows us to just always have Caesar using like engraver, if that makes sense. So it's just like engraver into sonked into requiem into engraver, reborn engraver, Caesar.
yeah, I think that's definitely something cool to look at. I will say I do like the Lacrima. Having the Lacrima revive effect for your opponent's turn randomly gives you the like added layers to your board. So being able to like use Lacrima to revive a Requiem during your opponent's turn, and then being able to use like a Snatchy effect to synchro with the Requiem gives you like a lot of
I
cool
got
layers
it.
to it.
I got it, bro. I got the goo. I got the
Okay,
goo.
I'm ready.
Are you ready, bro? So I like the Lacrima, bro. I like the Lacrima. The Lacrima's a level 4, okay, bro? Okay. What's 4 plus 2?
Rise Oh, 6.
6, bro. What's a kind of a broken 6 synchro monster, bro?
Ooh, maybe this card they were playing in the OCG for like a really long time.
Dude, that might be the goo, bro. You go in Lacrima, Requiem, summon back Lacrima, then synchro with the Lacrima, Book of Moon their whole field, then you Book of Moon 2 more monsters. What are you gonna do if you have 5 monster Book of Moon, bro? What you gonna
Dude,
do?
that's
Come on
true.
now.
If there's 5 monsters Book of Moon, Jiaolong can't change any of them because he doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so let's
Okay,
find a
wait.
way to get this card in the extra deck and see if we can condense down the other parts of it. I don't think we need Almirage. Are we in agreement there pretty quickly?
I think that's fine. Like, yeah,
Link Spider's a card they're already cutting from their engine in almost every build of Yummy, because if you just play more optimally, you don't need Link Spider. I think that's a card we can cut
yeah,
as well.
yeah. Putting the Croaky back in the main deck kind of allows us to do that.
Mhm. The other thing is that if we are going for a Caesar approach, which we have to make a decision on, it's swapping out the Deseret and the sequence for a Necro Quip and a Caesar. So what do you want to do? Do you think that this is better as a Deseret package, or do we think it's better as a Caesar package that also facilitates our other engines?
Hmm,
Because here's the deal: if we
that's
are
kind of
trying
tough.
to lean into the Silvera idea to summon a broken synchro monster,
We don't want to We don't. Yeah, we don't want to put back our Lacrima in the extra deck. Or, sorry, in the deck, right? We want to put it in the graveyard, and if we fuse it away back into the deck, we won't have that. So Caesar, bang,
Caesar. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw a Caesar in here.
Necro
Um,
Quip as well.
and then Necro Quip, and then we can put our Silvera in there. One thing that I will say, I think that the missing card here in the extra deck is probably a Metal Marcher still. I think that card is just
Yeah.
too good not to play. That gives you access to your Omnigate more efficiently.
One thing that I'm a little sus on though about this is that we are only playing 2 Link 1s. Like we're only playing 2 Snatchies, and then we're not playing like we just cut, the Link Spider, the Amirage, we have no Anima, like those kind of cards. So we do really have only 2 Link 1s in our deck, which is a little sus.
I agree. One thing I will say is if you don't have Snatchy, but you do have access to your Fiendsmith Engine, Requiem kind of supplements the fact that you don't have
Yeah,
Snatchy for
that
just a
is true.
second. Just so you can get back into these. Because once you touch these, you're going to get to a field spell eventually. And then a field spell is eventually going to put back a Snatchy. So I think you can probably manage with 2. Not if it's the greatest thing ever, but it's probably something you can get away with. The other thing we could look at possibly changing is Onari. Because you do have a grind game built in with your Fiendsmith engine, it's not as necessary to have a grind game with your surprises being infinitely looped. I think the 2 surprise plus the engraver engine could possibly be enough grind game for you to live off of.
Yeah, although the Onari is like a really good card. I think for now we probably keep the Onari, and then like I mean, again, like this is just like a first look. Like if you're looking at this and you're like, oh my god, this is the deck I want to play. Try this out, right? Try it out for a couple games. See, oh my god, like I need 3 snatchies, and then cut the Onari, put the third snatchy in, right? We're not gonna be able to solve the deck immediately, but we're gonna get to a really good starting point if you want to try this deck out and play it yourself. This is gonna be pretty close to like how your final list will look in the end.
I will say one thing we could look at as well is even though Obedient School does lock us, it is the best card this deck has by far. It is like one of the best engine cards you can like honestly play. It may be better for us to cut the engage and the Hornet drones and just play 3 Obedient School. That also is going to open up an extra deck spot.
The annoying thing with that though, it locks you out of your Fiendsmith cards. But I guess it's like, do we really always need the Fiendsmith cards?
It's a 3-card package. I feel like you should be accessing them when it's convenient for you. That's why you're not playing 7 of them. You don't want to draw them every time. And so Sanct is more of like a backup plan. If I do draw my Engraver, then it's not a brick entirely. I can pitch it, get Sanct. Sanct gets me to some sort of play. Lacrima is not a brick, obviously. Engraver is not a brick because we play Sanct. We just talked about that. So we're playing 3 cards that aren't bricks. They're just kind of supplemental engine cards. If we draw them, we draw them. If we have the ability to access them from the decks, we're already playing the game uninterrupted, and we've made it pretty far. Totally a fair thing to do. I think the Engage and the Hornet drones at this point is just kind of redundant engine, where we could just play like a stronger engine card to begin with. Because I will say this deck's problem right now looks like it's a little bit weak going second. And Obedience School does help with that because it's just a really powerful engine card.
Right. While we think about the Obedience School, I think that I wouldn't want to play Called By in this deck or Talents. I understand that like you're probably playing those cards because Fua really hurts you, but actually it really doesn't. Like you can just play Yummy under Fua. You give him 1 draw, and then you're like, okay, your turn, and then you just combo in their turn. So I actually think that like we could be playing like just more non-engine in that slot, either like Droplet, which again, Droplet's like a really good card. Droplet, I guess ogres, because we're playing Nib, so we just want to like have as much as possible. We could even play no, we can't play Azuna, never mind. Extra deck's too tight. My
Can't
bad, my
play
bad, my
Azuna.
bad.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Um,
extra
but
deck is too tight.
we can get 3 Ogres in here. Now we're sitting at 21 non-engine, which is incredibly high for a deck
Yeah,
like this.
21 is really good, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
21. Now Nib becomes like really playable. Now we can start our turn with a body. We could even like, I don't hate Phantasma.
My issue with Phantasme is that it's a monster that gets summoned on your field. How we have it right now, Sanct needs no monsters on our field. Engraver is basically Sanct. Then we have our 4 striker cards. That's 6, if I can count. That's a pretty high number, so I don't know if that's right. But
Yeah,
it
that's true.
does kind of conflict with some of our starters right now. I think that Nib, it's probably fine because it does convert over really well into like our Fiendsmith engine. I guess Phantasme is kind of the same thing. But I think it's probably
Yeah, but
best to
Nib
try to
has more
minimize
value at
those.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nib has more value. Like at least if you have like, you're right though. If you have Engage plus Nib, like as long as you have any other normal summon, you can turn those into Moon and then activate Engage. So
Yeah.
that does that does work better to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing you can do with Sanct that's really cool is that if you do open like 2 monsters plus like or sorry like Nib plus a monster plus Sanct, you can go like normally the monster, make Moon, make Requiem, and then Sanct to summon a level 1, then just immediately go into your other engine. So Sanct is like kind of a starter as long as we have another body on the field. Consistency is a little bit scarce in this deck. I think that if we're not playing Obedient School, we need to add in the other Lollipo. And even if we do decide to play the Obedient School, the Lollipo still actually probably comes in. Just because 13 starters is not enough for a deck. That's just not a competitive level. And I understand we have a lot of non-engine to help us mitigate for whenever we don't open playable. But the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes too fast for 1 Imperm, or 2 Imperms, or 2 Veilers and an Imperm to stop them from really playing.
Yeah, I think we could actually cut a surprise in this. Like we keep the link 1, we cut a surprise just because we have a secondary engine. Like we don't need to rely on card opening surprise. And then if we use a surprise and we want another one, well we can reset it off the link 2, which I can't say his name, but yeah.
Fox Guy. Okay.
Fox
Anyways,
guy. Yeah, Fox guy.
I think that's a pretty good summary of what a good jumping off point would be for this deck. You have a little bit more consistency added into your deck. We've minimized the engines down a little bit to be a little bit more self-sufficient. The only thing that you could possibly look at would be adding in another engraver to your deck. Adding a second engraver makes the engine flow a little bit more smoothly whenever you do open engraver to start it off, just because you have enough names to actually get to a Caesar to get to a stopping point. Without there, you're kind of just left with like an SP body. So maybe look at playing another engraver there. And cutting down a non-engine card, probably something like a Veiler, just to get the other engraver in. But this would give
Wait,
us...
the one engraver still gets the Caesar though, it's fine. Because you go engraver for Song, Lacrima, just Lacrima, don't send anything, and then Requiem equip it. Oh, I see. But then
You
you can't
shuffle
have the
back...
Lacrima.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
shuffle back
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Lacrima. think it's probably worth putting the second engraver in the main deck. You can probably side it out
Yeah,
going
I agree.
second. You could probably even side out the whole engine going second, depending on the like matchup. But I think it's probably better just to main deck the 2 engravers to leave yourself with some sort of follow up. Either way, I think this is a good jumping off point for the deck. I think the side deck definitely needs some work, but for right now, that's gonna be all the time that we have. If you guys want to check out the masterclass, once again, Julien mentioned it below. It's his masterclass. He's the GOAT, world champion right here. September 12th. Go ahead and check it out there. Anything else, Julien?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, check out the masterclass, check out Sacco, and thanks for stopping by. If you guys want to send me on Twitter more deck lists, by the way, we'll probably just be doing this format again if you guys like these type of videos. So I'll put my Twitter down below, and you guys can DM me your deck list, and we'll take a look at them. All right, thanks for stopping by. Bye bye.